everyone, welcome to Learn Piano with Kristi. I'm Kristi. Hopefully you watched last week's lesson, basic piano notes on the piano. This week we're going to go over what those music notes look like when you are reading sheet music. So as I said last week, it's like learning a new language. Don't get frustrated. You have to start small and keep building. And I promise it will get easier and easier with time. Okay, let's dive in.
Here we have the treble clef and the bass clef. You'll notice that the treble clef is on top, bass clef is on bottom. The treble clef is oftentimes referred to as the G clef, while the bass clef is referred to as the F clef. Now the reason that we refer to the treble clef as the G clef, you'll see I've drawn some notes next to these different staffs. That's what the symbols are on the left side. And that G note corresponds with the little kind of squiggly circle around the line that the G note sits on. So that's why it's called a G clef. Now the F clef, you'll see I've drawn a note there as well. That's the F note. And that note sits on the line that's between those two dots next to the F clef. So here again we have the treble clef on top and the bass clef on the bottom. And you'll see I have these notes written out to go from the F on the F clef to the G on the treble clef. Now here I've actually drawn where the notes go on the music staff. And you can see that everything kind of goes line, space, line, space. The middle C is unique. There's no line in between the two staffs. But when you're drawing music or reading music, there will be a line drawn there. And that's how you can identify exactly where middle C is. Middle C we learned last week by finding the two black keys and putting your finger to the left of that one right in the middle of your piano. Here is the exercise that I suggested at the end of last week's video, playing C, D, E, F, G in your right hand, that's the top, and C, D, E, F, G in your left hand, that's on the bottom. This is what the notes look like when you're actually reading them. Last week we discussed octaves, and this is an octave going from C to C. Now I'm going to remind you about octaves in this short video from last week.
I just played when I kind of went really high, really low. It's called an octave when you go from one to the next. I have a wide hand, can reach pretty far. If you can't do this easily, don't worry about it. I just want you to get an idea for what an octave is. That's an octave. From here to here is also an octave. Same thing up and down the piano. Okay?
If you take a look at this exercise that I've written out, with the treble clef on top, bass clef on the bottom, going from middle C in your right hand, C, D, E, F, G, and going from a lower C in the bass with your left hand, C, D, E, F, G. Each of these notes that's stacked pretty much on top of each other is also an octave. We have C and C, D and D, E and E, F and F, and G and G. And that's what it would look like when you're reading the sheet music compared to kind of what that example showed you when I was playing. So take a look at this, C, D, E, F, G. Try to really memorize what middle C looks like. If you can't remember anything else this week, do that. Practice playing C, D, E, F, G in your right hand and C, D, E, F, G in your left hand. And these are the notes that correspond to what we were just looking at.
You did it! You did it. I know it's a lot. So I would recommend watching this video again if you have some issues with what we went over. I promise next week we're going to keep building on this, so you'll keep getting that constantly reinforced, everything we went over today. So if you have any issues, let me know, but keep practicing and we'll continue next week. Thanks everybody.